Welcome to Unity Christ Center's virtual Sunday service. I'm Reverend Jan Mahannah, Unity Minister. And the title for my talk today is Earth Prayers for Oneness. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the Good, Unity's affirmative statement of being. Believing that the living Spirit of God, the one presence and one power, manifests itself in all people and all things, it stands to reason that we are one in the essential essence with all, yet manifesting in an infinite variety of form. And the earth itself? This planet is home to all of us, of course, yet the earth is so much more, a living entity itself, I believe, also expressing the living spirit of Creator, of God. The earth is a bountiful community of living beings of which we are only one part, and yet each living being has an inner presence and dignity apart from any value we humans may place upon it. All the physical things that make up our daily life share a common spiritual reality, the underlying spiritual essence of all life. As such, they are all to be revered and respected. 50 years ago, on April 22nd, 1970, the first Earth Day was celebrated here in the United States. It was founded by Senator Gaylord Nelson and supported by a staff of hundreds of volunteers. The idea struck a chord. In 1969, there was extreme dissatisfaction and fear with the way the nation was developing. Because of increasingly extreme pollution in both air and water, people began to think that there was something wrong. Dennis Hayes was a 25-year-old student at Harvard at that time. He was hired as organizer to organize the entire United States for that first Earth Day, along with Senator Gaylord Nelson. In a recent interview, Dennis said the legacy of Earth Day was that legislation that was unthinkable in 1969 became unstoppable in the 1970s. A tsunami of legislation emerged. Between 1970 and 1976, the Clear Act amendments of 1970, the Clear Water Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, and more were passed. And as a result, human health has improved dramatically here in the United States. And the environment? Dennis replied when asked, since the 1970s, our air is much cleaner. Much of our water is cleaner. Things that used to be legal, like lead in our gasoline, are no longer allowed. Wildlife has been more protected. The hole in the ozone layer is starting to heal up. That said, we don't have very good ways to address things that are international in scope, like climate change. He continued, the world is producing more carbon dioxide every year than the year before, devastating hurricanes, floods, droughts, forest fires, rising seas have become the new normal. He said, I can't understand why this is not the number one political priority of every nation on earth. We already have in hand everything we need to build an ultra-efficiency society powered 100% with renewable technologies. We're on the way to developing technologies for a truly sustainable, resilient planet. Some time ago, I acquired a book entitled 365 Earth Prayers from Around the World, edited by Elizabeth Roberts and Elias Amadon. Its introduction began, we need to pray, Elias said one afternoon. Elizabeth noted that while they meditated regularly and valued times of silence and contemplation, the notice of prayer awakened in them a new desire, the desire for a communal liturgy directed toward healing human-earth relations. They wanted to link their personal spiritual life with that of the entire biosphere. As they began to grasp the extent of the damage being done to the Earth's life systems, they were filled with a deep sadness, even as we have been today. So much is lost, so much richness and natural beauty and diversity that future children may never know. How can we heal all that we have disrupted and polluted? Of course, our society and our daily lives have to change. Yet the healing of our relationship with this planet ultimately needs to emerge from our hearts and our spirit. We need to understand and re-experience our unity with the natural world and the sacredness of all life before our society and our daily lives change. Fostering this transformation is the challenge, I believe, that we're all faced with right now. And our current crisis is waking us up to this reality. As that couple reached out 30 years ago, collective voices from across the globe responded to rethink the dualism of our culture that separates the sacred and the secular, the natural and the supernatural. In every religion, they found the need to consecrate our participation in the natural world. So poetry, as well as prayers, came to their intention to include in this communal liturgy directed toward healing human and earth relations. I want to share a few of them with you throughout this talk. Earth prayers, they said, began with our intuition of the oneness of all life. We recognize that our identity is inextricably entwined with lives other than our own. This sense of expanded identity goes beyond human relationships. Physically and spiritually, we all are woven into the living processes of the earth. Here was one entry from an 11th century official in China. Heaven is my father, and earth my mother, and even such a small creature as I find an intimate place in its midst. That which extends throughout the universe I regard as my body, and that which directs the universe I regard as my nature. All people are my brothers and sisters, and all things are my companions. As science now tells us, our breathing, our action, our thinking arise in interaction with our shared world. Our own hearts constantly beat out the cosmic rhythm within us. We can't escape our involvement any more than we can escape living on this earth, breathing the air that has traveled from trees and plants perhaps thousands of miles away. When we ground our spiritual awareness in this ecological context, then the strength and wisdom of the living earth in all its manifestations of nature flows through our awareness, our bondedness with all of creation, our oneness in the dance of life from the source of life. We're connected to the planet as a whole. We receive life-giving elements and multiple blessings from the earth and nature, life-sustaining elements. In return, we need to give thanks and bless the earth and all its beings and appreciate it. Appreciating and blessing the planet and nature is not worshiping another god, but rather embracing the wholeness of Creator's manifested realm as we know it. An entry from Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese Buddhist. Look deeply. I arrive in every second to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with wings still fragile, learning to sing my song in a nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. Please call me by my true names so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion, the spiritual essence of compassion. And another entry from Native American Chief Seattle. Teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. If men spit upon the ground, they spit upon themselves. This we know. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know. All things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. To the ancients, as well as to many of us contemporary seekers, the world is alive with spirit, the living spirit of Creator. Nature is infused with creativity and meaning, and any place can speak to us of the divine source. Here we live primarily in a secular landscape. We've been taught to identify the sacred primarily in and with our cathedrals, churches, and temples. Yet invisible spirit is the underlying essence of visible matter. So no matter where we are, church or forest, temple or park, we can touch the spiritual essence of all that is natural. It's our perception, our direction that makes a difference. Another entry from Annie Dillard. It is written on the arched sky. It looks out from every star. It is spread like a legible language upon the broad face of an unsleeping ocean. It is the poetry of nature. It is that which uplifts the spirit within us. And another one from Chief Dan George. The beauty of the trees, the softness of the air, the fragrance of the grass speak to me. The summit of the mountain, the thunder of the sky, the rhythm of the sea speak to me. The faintness of the stars, the freshness of the morning, the dewdrop on the flower speak to me. The strength of fire, the taste of salmon, the trail of the sun, and the life that never goes away, they speak to me, and my spirit soars. Those quotations remind me of the incredibly beautiful nature photographs that we've shared with one another. Reading from Dr. Alberto Villoldo, medical anthropologist, who spoke this week, he said, we're living in exceptional times. We know that. The first time our humanity has been stopped in its tracks in 100 years with this virus. Many indigenous prophecies speak of this as a time of great transformation, a chaotic time when a world out of kilter is stopped, then restored to balance and serenity. They also describe a culling of humanity, which is sadly happening today as many of us lose loved ones to death from this virus. Yet every crisis brings with it a marvelous opportunity. Sound familiar? Ours is to awaken our inner shaman, he says, what we in Unity would call our inner wisdom or the Christ within, so that we can become part of a new solution. We can help those who are in great need and use our spiritual practice, inspiration, and prayers to find new ways to develop sustainable business, food, and medicine as we deal with worldwide health and economic problems. We've also learned that indigenous prophecies speak of a time following this chaotic period where there will be a birth of a new humanity and the awakening of compassion, caring, sustainability, and coexistence with all the creatures on the planet, which has been our prayer for so long, to awaken to the spiritual essence underlying all of life. In our own Bible, in the first creation story in our Bible, Remember, there are two. This was the first one. Genesis 1:27, we read, God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then it follows with a description of the creation of all living things and the admonition to have dominion over all. Unfortunately, we've taken the term dominion to mean irreverent use for everything at our disposal, even wholesale destruction or abuse of that which was created to sustain life and to sustain us in balance with all of life. We are interconnected with all of life, but our culture, our society has disconnected us from that spiritual interconnection. It separated us from the secular, from the sacred. And it's up to us to restore that connection. At this moment in time, the coronavirus is affecting the lungs of people globally, while the lungs of the earth, the trees in the rainforest and elsewhere, are consistently being cut and destroyed. Is there a connection? With the creation of the internet and the World Wide Web and our global technology, we're urged to have virus protection against those any place on the planet who would attack or compromise our personal connections. We've been fearing technological viruses and experiencing them for years on the World Wide Web. Is there a connection of those viruses to this physical one? Our scripture reads, Psalm 96:11, let the heavens be glad, and let the whole earth rejoice. So today, you have an invitation to learn how to make a spiritual commitment, a sacred commitment to the earth as one of her multiple stewards. As we do, indigenous people say, the earth will recognize us as earth keepers and look after us. Our Mother Earth wants us to be well, but if we remain predators, disconnected from her and from all of creation, we will get sick, for humanity at this time is a parasite that is killing its host. If instead we awaken our inner wisdom and take on the stewardship of all life will prosper, will continue to support us in miraculous ways. But we can only accomplish this from a place of fearlessness. So that is your invitation today. Will you make a spiritual commitment to the earth as one of her multiple stewards? Even as God the Good continues to bless all of us with good life. In essence, we are one. Blessings. Our meditation will follow separately.